This busy port is a critical lifeline for moving supplies in and out of Puerto Rico. But today we saw little heading out.
Obviously, I imagine it's not a lack of trucker situation. It's a lack that the business gets started so they can send their truckers to pick up the cargo.
The latest word from FEMA, 755 containers left the port yesterday, some 2.5 million liters of water and 2 million meals already delivered. The supplies heading to 11 regional distribution centers. But today in San Juan, long lines of people waiting for hours.
You take what you can get.
Shop aisles lined with empty shelves, no frozen items, no milk, no ice, and dry goods like beans and rice being rationed. 16-year-old Gabriel Aguado and his mom drove 90 minutes to buy one bag of food.
We got cereal, bread, and some things to make tacos because it's the only thing we can do right now to eat.
All transactions across the island, cash only. Banks have limit on cash withdrawals, many ATMs out of service, with some wondering if the economy can bounce back from these desperate times.
Whatever cash was already available is what's being used, and those who have bank accounts will go out and withdraw what they can.
Authorities say they've made headway. FEMA data shows a third of Puerto Ricans have working cell phones again. Water supply to about 600,000 people. The airport's receiving 35 flights today. Complicating the already tense situation, President Donald Trump taking aim at San Juan's mayor after her public plea.
I am done being polite. I am done being politically correct. I am mad as hell.
The president unleashing a flurry of 12 tweets on Puerto Rico today, saying results of recovery efforts will speak much louder than complaints by San Juan mayor. As for the mayor,
Do you feel that the President of the United States is personally attacking you?
I don't care. He can attack me all he wants. Bring it on. I'm here. You know what? If it saves lives, because it gets the message in the right place, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
on Monday, there are 284 pieces of equipment coming in on a barge for FEMA. Small trucks, generators, other equipment to help them get to some of the more remote parts of the island. Jose?
Tammy Leitner in San Juan, thank you.
A week after Hurricane Maria trampled Puerto Rico, leaving the island without power, food, or water, and with dwindling options, a return to normalcy is nowhere in sight. Some estimates suggest that it could take 4 to 6 months for power to be completely restored. In the face of an ever-worsening humanitarian crisis, we have to ask, why did the power get knocked out so severely, and what will it take to get the lights back on? The hurricane blew out nearly 80% of the transmission lines on the island. The good news is that most of the power plants are still functional, but the lines that actually get the power into households are down. And this is where the problem gets compounded. Experts say that some of the transmission lines are so badly damaged that it's no longer a question of repair. They will need to be entirely replaced. These efforts will cost a massive amount of money the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority doesn't have. The company reportedly filed for bankruptcy in July. Add to this the fact that the loss of power means repairs can only be conducted during the day, and things get infinitely harder. And Puerto Rico's power situation is made worse by the fact that it is an island system, and getting supplies to rebuild is a logistical nightmare.
No utility can have enough manpower and trucks and supplies to restore after an event like this, so they need help. Because it's an island, getting even the supplies to build the lines and poles and transformers and generators, it's a logistical headache to get everything there, and the crews themselves as well.
Mark McGranahan works for the EPRI, a nonprofit research institute that's looking into how utility companies can improve grid resiliency. He says that the restoration of power in Puerto Rico is going to be a two-phase process. The first phase will involve rebuilding the basic infrastructure to bring power back to the people as quickly as possible. Once this is done, the grid resiliency will need to be looked at. And this provides an opportunity to reimagine Puerto Rico's energy system, a system that currently uses some of the least sustainable fuels in the U.S. According to him, Puerto Rico would be a great test case, for incorporating renewable resources into the grid, in addition to other measures that will make the infrastructure able to withstand future disasters.
But concrete poles in areas that are most susceptible to hurricanes, they're much more resilient. So even if the lines go down, you haven't lost the structures. And now we have options of doing things like microgrids and local resiliency with a combination of storage and generation and even renewable generation like solar, to see how that can be part of the equation in the future.
In 2015, the EPRI published a 56-page white paper which argues that grid resiliency needs to be invested in by major power companies, as storms like Maria continue to increase in strength and frequency. One statistic they cited says that the number of major disasters rose to an all-time high of 247 events in 2010, up from approximately 200 in 2009, and less than 200 in all the years from 1980 to 2010.
It is clear that we've had more events in the last 5 years or so than were typically the case in previous years, and maybe what we call once in 100 years event is not once in 100 years anymore.
In modern times, there are many such events that have become more likely and leave our power grids extremely vulnerable. As we look to the future in a long and uphill climb to restoring Puerto Rico's power infrastructure, it begs the question: how resilient is our infrastructure in the face of frequent calamities? And what steps do we need to take to avoid the next catastrophe?
Yep, there's another way water can get into the air. The water on the doghouse roof dried pretty fast in the warm sun. This water disappears faster because the stove is hotter. This change from water we can see to water vapor we can't see is called evaporation. The cloud from the spout of the tea kettle is condensation of the water vapor from the tea kettle hitting the colder air. The hot water in the kettle gives off water vapor to the air by rapid evaporation, just as rivers, lakes, and ponds give off water vapor to the air by slow evaporation. As the hot water-filled air hits the colder air near the ice tray, the water vapor turns into clouds of tiny water droplets floating in the air, condensation. When the air is quite cold and cannot hold any more water droplets, they collect together to form larger drops, as on the ice tray. And being too heavy to float in the air, they fall back to the earth as rain. Without water in the air, we couldn't live. Our fields would be dry and nothing would grow. The hot water in the kettle gives off water vapor to the air by rapid evaporation, just as rivers, lakes, and ponds give off water vapor to the air by slow evaporation. The hot water in the kettle gives off water vapor to the air by rapid evaporation, just as rivers, lakes, and ponds give off water vapor to the air by slow evaporation. The hot water in the kettle gives off water vapor to the air by rapid evaporation, just as rivers, lakes, and ponds give off water vapor to the air by slow evaporation.